All right, welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. I am here with my friend Carleigh Bodrug from PlantYou. If you don't know about the PlantYou brand yet, you're going to learn all about it this episode, and it is all really good stuff. So welcome, Carleigh.
I'm so excited that we're connecting and that you're having me on your podcast. I've been following you for so long. So I'm super excited we get to do this today.
Oh, thanks, friend. I have been following you as well. And that is actually how Carleigh and I met through Instagram. I know you're on TikTok, friend, too. I know you're like on all the platforms, but I found Carleigh through Instagram because she's in the plant-based community. And I think that everybody knows here by now that is something that we talk about on pretty much every single episode, eating a lot of plants. And so Carleigh, first off, let me just ask you, how old are you?
I'm 29 and I look a lot younger than that. Not in like a youthful, like, oh, I haven't aged way. I think I just look young. So a lot of people think I'm like in my early 20s, but I'm 29. I'm not that young.
Okay. Well, you do look younger than 29, and that's really, really good because you're going to want to look younger than you are for the rest of your entire life. So, okay. I just feel like even at the age of 29, Carleigh, you have accomplished so much. This is from the outside looking in. I know that, you probably have your own standards as an entrepreneur in terms of what you have in your vision, your long-term vision, or, like in your capacity, like that, that you can accomplish. So maybe you don't feel like you've done a ton, but maybe you do. I hope you do. But from the outside looking in, you have been incredibly inspiring to me in terms not only of eating more plants, because that's just the vibe, but also about your entrepreneur journey. So I want to talk about both why plant-based with you, and then also about your entrepreneur journey and like how all of this started and what sparked it. So let's first start, Carleigh, with your background. I mean, I know that you were in like radio, and you've always been outgoing. Where did this all like meld together that you decided you were going to start, a brand? And how did it all just like start? How did it start?
It kind of happened organically. So I went to school for broadcast journalism. I always had the dream of being like a TV news anchor, TV kind of broadcaster. And so that's what I went to school for. 4 years of university, 2 years of college, wanted to be a big time kind of news anchor. And then I graduated, moved up to Northern Ontario, Canada by myself, and started pursuing morning radio news as like a starting point to my career. And that's kind of the path that I thought I was going to go. And then in 2015, news came out from the World Health Organization that red and processed meat were now considered class 1 and class 2 carcinogens. And as a kid, my dad had stage 2 colon cancer, and it was very traumatic. I would say I was young when he had cancer, about 11 years old. And he went through the chemotherapy and everything. And I remember when that news came out, him being really angry because he had gone through this really invasive surgery and the chemo and the fear of losing his life, and then continued eating the very thing that probably contributed to the cancer, on recommendations of the Canadian Food Guide, which recommended you have like your serving of milk every night and you center kind of your plate around meat. So it was really shocking. And then we kind of delved into the documentaries like The Forks Over Knives and The Cowspiracy. And I've never just felt so shocked and wanting to kind of spread the word about something. So basically overnight, my family and I transitioned to a plant-based diet. And as a kid, I had grown up with like very bad constipation. Sorry if this is TMI, but to the point where I was prescribed laxatives and had never had a solution of it my whole life. And suddenly I go plant-based and that is completely rectified, feel amazing, eating this way that I know is beneficial for not only my health, but for the animals and the planet. And I just felt inclined to share it with everybody. And having kind of that journalist background, I think it provided me the foundation to start writing about my plant-based diet on Instagram and these various platforms. I eventually went on to enroll in a holistic health coach course through a program called Nutrophoria, which I took for a 1-year course, and just really started to pursue the brand, I guess. PlantYou, it kind of originated. I was looking, I'm like, I got to name my blog something with plant in it. And I remember going to like GoDaddy.com, which is like where you purchase domain names, and typing in plant and all different kind of iterations of it until I eventually landed on PlantYou. And I just couldn't believe that it wasn't like taken and wasn't like a premium domain that they charged thousands of dollars for. Purchased it, started the Instagram page, and things kind of took off. I think at the time, there wasn't a lot of people doing truly simple plant-based recipes. It was like a lot of like nourish bowls that looked really complicated and stuff. So people really resonated with my stuff. And it took off to the point in 2019, I was able to finally leave my full-time job at the time and pursue it. And we've been going ever since then.
Oh my gosh. I love it. That is super organic. You're right. But, you know, it all stemmed from one thing. I think we all start our journeys to entrepreneurship and to like holistic life shifts from kind of, bad situations or situations that we want to rectify and fix in our lives. And so that is a super powerful story. And bravo for your entire family making that shift. That's really good and a big impact. So, all right, Carleigh. So do you have a huge team behind you? Because if people again are outside looking in, I have a funny feeling I know your answer. But do you have like a whole bunch of people like working for PlantYou at this time? Because right now you have an app, a food app. You have your videos on Instagram and TikTok. You're probably, I think, doing YouTube videos. I might be wrong. Are you doing YouTube videos too?
No,
Okay,
I think it takes a superhuman to do YouTube. I mean, I'm trying to, but like.
So you have a blog. You have a blog. You have your food blog. You're like on a lot of platforms. You're doing all the things. You're doing reels. You're doing posts. Is it just you? Is this a one-man show right now with your husband?
No, it used to be for a long time. And then so my fiance works a normal job. He does not, he would kill me if I said he didn't assist, because he actually like is constantly washing dishes and assisting from a labor perspective. So I can't say that, but he works a normal job. So he's out of the house like 9 to 5. But I think it was a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, I had this girl reach out on Instagram and say, can I help you? Like, I can help you do Pinterest and all blog stuff. And her name is Pamela Crucy. And anyways, we just started with Pinterest, and slowly she has just like started helping me with all different things. So I have an assistant who works like 12 hours a week. And then I also have a recipe creator that helps me with the app stuff, creating recipes for our meal planner. But it all started on my own, and like the content is something that I take a lot of pride in, and that's where I kind of want to spend my days. So all of the content is done by me, all of the videography and all of that. But it is kind of like a one-man show still, but there's what I would say to entrepreneurs is you don't necessarily need to hire like full-time staff. There are so many amazing contractors out there that can assist you in monotonous tasks that you don't have time for, while you can still kind of like just maintain control of your business, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think, so like in Carleigh's instance, she has built a following just on Instagram that I know of over 500,000 people. And so that is a huge accomplishment. So for, for somebody that doesn't have a massive amount, a massive following like me, you would maybe think about, if you're wanting to expand your brand, thinking about like a contractor, like Carleigh's talking about, like a virtual assistant, like somebody that might be able to help you communicate with people, and to stay up on that, and to like nurture relationships that you might not be able to have like the capacity for, like mentally, because you are the person behind the camera creating, like we only have so many hours in the day. So look at, this is something that I preach, Carleigh, like look at investing in yourself in terms of asking for help, whether that is having somebody clean your house, or that is having somebody help you send automated messages to people, or whatever it might be, like to nurture an existing client or something like that, or like push out the emails that you've created, like whatever it is. Don't be afraid to ask for that help, no matter how big or small your brand is. Ask, look at what your business can afford, and don't be afraid for that, because I learned the hard way when I used to own a brick and mortar that I didn't ask for help enough, and that led to burnout. So I want all the entrepreneurs out there to hear that. And even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're just a busy, tired mom, don't be afraid to ask for help. Side note, mental health is so important. So, okay, Carleigh, when it comes to, so you have this app, I want to go back to your recipe development and your meal plan. Is that like, I mean, you started sharing recipes with people were getting inspired. Was that something that people needed the most, that you found like they needed a plan of things to eat on a normal basis?
Yeah, I think I experienced this as well. When you go plant-based, it can be really overwhelming. And I think there's this tendency to feel like you need to completely overhaul your entire diet. And what I learned is that approaching it in a way where you're making tweaks to your existing diet to be healthier and more plant-based is probably the way to go. And I also think in the vegan community itself, which I'm also part of, the messaging can sometimes come off a bit judgmental and assertive, whereas my messaging has always been, take your time, don't make the switch entirely overnight. It took me probably over a year to go entirely vegan just by making these slow swaps. So I started sharing recipes that were based off like what I grew up eating. So my mom used to make this amazing pasta sauce, like a bolognese pasta with ground beef. So I started sharing like a bolognese pasta with lentils. And I think it struck a chord with people. Okay, like I can still enjoy the food I grew up eating and that I love. I just need to swap out the animal products. And it really did resonate with people. I mean, I grew most of my following sharing like really simple infographic recipes. So they would have all the photos of the ingredients in the dish. And I think visually people could see themselves making it rather than like a very artistic photo of like a zoodles topped with like a carved avocado and stuff. Like not many people have time for that. So it's definitely the recipes that I think people vibe with, and I think helps people go plant-based, because it doesn't take a lot to understand how beneficial it can be, but in practice it can be challenging.
Totally. Oh, I love that. I love how you thought about like, yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be like Pinterest perfect or whatever, or what people might think, like if you're going to take a photo of food, it needs to look like. It does not have to look perfect. I like that idea of the infographic. I think that's a great way to kind of tap into people's brains and just give them, the graphic of what the ingredients are. I like that a lot. That's really smart, and something that I feel is definitely something I would be drawn to too if I were like scouring for recipes, like, oh, this looks easy. It's only like 7 things or 5 things, and these are the components of it. I really like that. So okay, Carleigh, you're good at cooking. You're really good at creating recipes. You get creative in the kitchen. I love your series of saving food, and using like the whole thing, like the recent watermelon rind jam. I mean, you're looking at ways to protect the earth even more than just eating more plants, which I absolutely love. Now, where did this come from? Your mom, your dad? Like, have you always loved cooking? Or was it really, amplified once you went plant-based and you were just kind of like forced into getting more creative? Like, or have you always liked to cook?
I've got to tell you, like, my university friends must think what the heck happened to her, because I came to university with a freezer stocked full of like mini pizzas, tater tots. That's all I ate. So this is just completely out of character in terms of who I was a decade ago. Never cooked. My parents cook, but like it's nothing crazy. I would say I've always been a massively creative person, and the idea of cooking and taking all of these elements and creating this beautiful finished product is very attractive to me. Number two, I think I have a really good palate. Like, I know when something is yummy, and I'm obsessed with eating and food. Like, it's my favorite thing in the world. So I think I have those two things going for me, and I still would not say I'm like a talented cook or chef. Like, the stuff I make is very simple. And I always say to people, like, I'm a normal person cooking at home. Like, this is not something that you need to be experienced to do. So it kind of just came out of this desire to eat plant-based and having to teach myself how to do that, because we had grown up in a meat and potatoes family. So that's kind of where it came from. And I just loved these elements of being able to like film the process and stuff like that. So it erupted out of wanting to go plant-based. And I hear that a lot from people. Like, when they go plant-based, they start learning how to cook because you're kind of forced to figure out how to prepare stuff. It's not like just throwing a chicken breast with salt and pepper in the oven, which was never yummy anyways, but it's just kind of what I grew up eating.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, okay, you said, that was kind of a question I was going to ask you. You said you love to cook and it's like one of your favorite things. It's your favorite thing to do. I was going to ask you, like, do you find joy eating? Because I was like dropping my son off at camp today and I was literally thinking, I mean, it was like 8:30 a.m. and I'm like, what am I going to eat next? Like, what's my next meal? Like, what's my lunch going to be? Like, I've always been that way. With food. Have you always loved eating? Like, just really loved it? Because some people don't have that. They don't
I know.
It's so weird.
I have friends who say to me, oh my gosh, I forgot to eat dinner tonight. And I'm like, forgot to eat dinner? Like, I cannot even fathom like forgetting a meal. Like, it's food. I love food. I love eating. It's something me and my fiance like definitely have in common. Like, I met him 10 years ago, so I was still in that stage of like the tater tots, mini pizzas, but still we were like obsessed, loved food. And it's so funny, like when we make dinner, like it's our favorite meal of the day, and like the atmosphere just has to be perfect. Like, I just love like sitting down, enjoying the meal. I don't like distractions. So yes, to answer your question, if I could plan like a whole trip around food is like my life. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked when people like don't have the same passion for it, because I can't compute that. Like, so I definitely relate.
So hard for me too. I've literally never ever in my entire life forgotten to eat a meal. Like, I've never forgotten. Like, even when I had a baby, I mean, no way. That was actually the first thing on my list. I'm like, where's the food? Like, give me the food. Nervous about like going out in public because I had to make sure I was going to have food. Like, that's just crazy to me, but that's just the way that I work. So, okay, let's go back to when you were eating the tater tots and eating the frozen pizzas, because I was there too. Oh my God. I used to eat like a box of toaster strudels for, like that was, there was only 4. So I would eat like all of them, or maybe at least 2 as a snack. How did you feel? Did you think that you felt good, Carleigh, in your body at that time? Like, And then now do you feel the massive difference and kind of look back at like, whoa, you know, like my entire like vibe is different. Maybe it isn't for you, but for me, I felt that. I feel very different. Do you feel different?
Yes, like it's hard to say because I was 19, drinking a lot of alcohol on the weekends, eating a lot of crap, but I mean, I was just like in Energizer bunny mode. Like it just didn't matter almost what I ate. And then like honestly, I'm like I don't even know how I was getting up in the morning. Like it was just I was eating that bad. But I think your body gets used to it, right? Like now, if I eat something like crap, I just feel horrible. And I mean, the age obviously doesn't help as I'm getting older. So, yes and no. Like, I definitely noticed when I immediately switched to plant-based, like the constipation issue I had dealt with my whole life alleviated. And that was just like a massive relief. Like, I no longer felt this heaviness at all times. My skin definitely noticed a difference. And I feel like even when I look back to when I was 19, I look at my face and my skin and I just feel like I look healthier. So there was those definitely those subtle shifts, and the health shift of the digestion was life changing. Mm-hmm. And then there was the other shifts. Like, I don't know if you experienced this, but I ate meat and dairy and stuff, and then like I almost had like a spiritual shift. And I don't talk about this a lot because I think it sounds maybe a little odd, but I just feel so much deeper of a connection to nature, the animals around me, our trees and everything. Like I just feel in a flow with nature. And I know that sounds odd, but I can't even fathom eating animal products now because of this relationship I feel like I've cultivated with the world since going plant-based. That was something I didn't expect and had never heard people really talk about. But yeah.
No, that doesn't sound weird at all, Carleigh. Well, first off, you're talking to a yoga instructor, so I'm like, all like, but and not all yoga instructors I like that, but like, and I'm an earth sign, so I totally get that. I'm a Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And I 100%, I mean, that's like what we would call woke. Maybe you're a little bit more woke now, right? Like we've awoken. And I mean, I definitely think that, you know, everything is energy. And if we can keep things and like beings happy, you know, there is this flow. You feel more connected and more compassion, a little bit more compassion for what's happening in the world. And I think that does happen for many people that go plant-based, just because there's a whole, especially after all the documentaries that are out there, you know, it's like, it awakens you and really helps you think about not just what you're putting in your body, but what's going on in the atmosphere and how we're treating the planet. And of course, at the end of the day, you know, how unhappy the situation may end for an animal when it doesn't have to. When we were brought up thinking that it has to be that way because of the recommendations in America and Canada and across the globe of what we should be consuming. And so we're very confused, of course. And yeah, so when you make that shift and you just kind of awaken, I definitely agree. Okay, so you started your blog. Let's go back to the business with PlantYou. You started at the blog. Is that where you started? And then you kind of hopped onto social media?
Yes, I think I set up the website first and then hopped onto Instagram and started sharing. And it was pretty rapid, like the growth, I would say. Just because I kind of got involved in the vegan community on there and started sharing these graphics, and they were very shareable. So other people were sharing them, which helped grow my platform quite rapidly from the point where it started.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say rapidly. I feel like I started this blog back in 2016, and now we're 2021, right? So maybe it wasn't as rapid as I thought, but it felt quick at the time, and it felt like it was growing at a good pace.
And I mean, bravo on being able to leave your job and actually pursue like what really sets your soul on fire, because life is so short and it is just a gift to be able to take that leap of faith. So I'm super happy for you in regards to that. That just makes me really happy, because like, obviously you're doing exactly what you should be doing, and the world is benefiting in so many ways because of it. So okay, so you went to that social media, like you started making videos. Can you just explain really quick before we move on into like all the other things that you're doing with PlantYou? Can you explain to people how long it takes to make you a video? Because to make a video like on Reels, or like for, basically on Reels, because that's what you're like doing mostly, right now.
For sure.
Your video clips. I mean, a 1 minute video clip or a 30-second video clip, is that taking you like half the day?
Oh, yes. Like the full day sometimes. It's because you have to think you're planning a recipe, and if you haven't made this thing before or you're unsure, you have to test the recipe first, right? And then you're filming it. And before filming it, I plan out all of the clips that I want to make sure that I get. So then I film the recipe creation with my camera. After the recipe is done, I film an intro with the finished product, and then I offload it onto my computer, send it to my phone, edit the video, and then I have to think about what I want to do in terms of a voiceover, text on the screen. So in some cases, it can actually take multiple days. Like sometimes I film recipes and then I edit a couple of days later. It just depends. And then some days it just depends on the recipe, right? Like I did grated tofu the other day, and probably the entirety of the video took me about 2 hours from start to edit. So it's all dependent on the recipe, but it's certainly a lot of work for a 1 minute video, which is why I always recommend that people make sure they're repurposing their video content on multiple platforms. So we are looking at how to make these videos into long form to use on YouTube. They're posted on Facebook, they're posted on TikTok as well, because it's a lot of eggs in one basket if you're going to dedicate that much time to creating a piece of content to only have it posted to one platform, and there's no predicting how that will perform or whether it will leverage anything for you at the end of the day.
100%. I think that's one of the smartest things that an entrepreneur can do. Use your newsletters, use Facebook, use TikTok, use Instagram, use a blog, like use all the platforms that you possibly can, because you also never know when one might go away or when you might get locked out of one, like God forbid, or something like that. Right. So I think that that's something that I teach as well. Like it's kind of smart to have multiple streams of income as an entrepreneur, because you just never know when something might end up not working, at the end of the day. So I really like that. So that kind of streams into the next question. Like, what made you decide to now have a app? You have an app.
Yes. So based on what you just said, like the multiple streams of income, if you're wanting to become a content creator or an entrepreneur, I cannot recommend setting up multiple streams of income enough, because at the end of the day, it's just so volatile. Like you don't know what is going to happen month to month. So if you have that padding of additional streams of income, like I can think of, we have ads on our blog, we have brand partnerships, we have the ad, we have affiliate income, cookbook. That's 5 different streams of income. I'm not rich in any way, but it affords me a living to be able to do what I love every day. And I never wanted to be in a position where I had to go and work for someone else again. So I'm always in the back of my head thinking, okay, this stream of income's lowering. Where can we optimize this? What else can we do? So I think that point was wonderful that you made. In terms of the app, so over 2 years ago now, I set up a program called the Plant Ahead program that was weekly PDF plant-based meal plans. And it was a subscription business at $7.99 USD per month. People paid to get these weekly meal plans in their inbox. They had shopping lists, like 5 different recipes for the week, and the nutrition information and everything. And we ran that program for 2 years. And during that time, I was trying my best to figure out how to move this to a web app-based system that people could like drag and drop and customize their meal plans, customize their shopping lists so that it was a much more helpful experience for them. Actually invested money into building a web application, and it didn't work out. Like, the guy built it and it was so full of bugs. I had to abandon it, start from scratch again, which is why it literally took 2 years. And yes, we launched just over a month ago. We moved everyone in the existing PDF system over to what we're now calling PlantGenie. I don't know if the name is going to stick. I think I might have made a bit of branding mistake there, because people are always just thinking it's like the PlantYou meal planner. I'm like, oh, it's called PlantGenie because I had this vision of like having an offshoot brand. I might just rename it to PlantYou. It's all like such a learning experience as an entrepreneur. I
think PlantGenie is, I mean, you go for it. Like, if you don't feel it in your heart, girl, you got to change it. But like, I think that what you're saying, where people can like drag and drop and like customize, that's kind of like, that's like a genie. Like, look, let's just do this, let's do that, you know. So
that was my vision. I just don't know that people get it. I think they might think it's a bit weird, but I don't know. We're going to stick with it for a bit, but it's also fearful as an entrepreneur, right? You don't want to create too much brand recognition around something. I'm really like opening up here about like my internal battle right now, but we don't know what we're going to do because people are just confused. Like, they're confused. So we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do. But anyways, right now, if you're listening, it's named PlantGenie. It's a drag and drop meal planner. It's excellent. Like, I'm so proud of it. We release new recipes every week, and it's the same price, $7.99 USD per month. We moved our existing database of members that had the PDFs over. And I'm just so glad it's into the world, because it was just such a nightmare trying to get it up and running. And now we're out there and we're rolling along, and I think people are really enjoying it. And my biggest hope is that it's helping people eat more plants. So that's kind of like what our mission is all about. And so we've got the app going. It's a web app. So it's like you can access it from any of your platforms, so your phone, your tablet, your computer, and print off the meal plans if that's something that you want to do as well.
That is awesome. That is so convenient. I don't have it yet, but I will be recommending it to everybody. That is incredible. That's so cool. Definitely more convenient than just from the App Store, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of people are stuck on the point of wanting to download it from the App Store, but I think a lot of people still meal plan on their computer, even at work. And at the end of the day, the problem with the App Store is they take a portion of all of the memberships, and then on top of that, you can't print the plans from the App Store. It poses a whole bunch of kind of issues. This is accessible on any browser. You can save it to your home screen just like an app. But again, there's communication around that too. I think I made a mistake calling it an app. The launch has been interesting for that. Like, it's an interesting, I don't consider myself someone who is like super business minded. So like, I am business minded, but I'm not like, I just want to create all day. So it's been difficult for me to shift into like a CEO mindset of trying to execute things and not be too connected to them, like from a personal standpoint, and think about them analytically. So this app whole launch has kind of challenged that part of me, and we're still in the weeds of it, trying to figure out our next steps. But the product itself is so good. Like, we're so proud of it.
Well, it sounds super convenient, and I mean, people can get on the web from their phone. So it's like Right there. That's amazing. That's awesome. And then you also launched a podcast. So you're bringing light into the world that way. I like how you're not just talking about like eating plants, but you're also talking about like saving the world and manifestation and all the things that I think are pertinent to life, to a good life, in my opinion. So tell me a little bit about, because I truthfully have not listened yet, Carleigh, about the bee situation. You interviewed an apiary owner, right?
Yeah, he's actually a bee expert. So he's like, he doesn't own any beehives himself, or that I know of. He might, but he is one of the world's leading bee experts. So he's a professor out at University of British Columbia, and like has studied bees for 40 years. So I interviewed him for a podcast episode, and it was so interesting. Bees are just like so miraculous. Like they really mirror how humans work in the world. And even like the destruction that is going on in the world is, to me, impacting the bee population in a similar way that it is humans. There's just so much to learn from bees. And yeah, that's one of my favorite podcast episodes I did. I really love podcasting because I do have that radio background, so it's kind of scratches that itch. And then on top of that, I feel like, I'm sure you can relate to this, but on social media, it's really easy when you have kind of niched down to get pigeonholed into like only talking about one thing. So I could talk about plant-based all day, but I did want the podcast to afford me the opportunity to talk about other things I'm interested in and kind of open up those other conversations with my audience in kind of like that safe place.
Yeah, yeah. So after that episode, Carleigh, how do you feel about honey?
Yeah.
Do you feel less like, do you feel more like, oh, I definitely don't want to be consuming honey? Or a little bit more like lenient? Where is your mind on it?
Here's what I think about honey. I think the vegan community can get often caught up in the minutia of the label being no animal products rather than the impact that products actually have on the planet. So for example, something like recycled leather or honey. It's it is not necessarily, consuming honey is not necessarily bad for the bees or bad for our environment. And there are a lot of studies that point to it being good for your health. So how I feel about honey, I think if you consume honey, that definitely doesn't mean that you're not vegan. Where I personally stand on it, I don't know. I just got so many conflicting opinions that at this point, the jury's kind of out in my mind. But like I said, I think we get way too caught up in the label, gatekeeping, and minutia at times that it just gets ridiculous. And honey is one of those things that if you want to consume it and you're vegan, I think it's completely appropriate.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to my next question with the plant-based and the vegan. Is it for you, what's your main driver? Is it the earth? Is it the health because of your background story? Or is it the animals? Or is it like all equal?
It's interesting because I think I had someone say to me on TikTok the other day, I was talking about reasons to go vegan, and I was talking about the health and the environment and the animals, of course. And there seems to be this feeling from some vegans that the only reason you can and should go vegan is because of the animals, because it's an animal rights movement. My argument would be is that our fellow humans are also animals. And at the end of the day, if we are not caring for our earth, if we are not caring for our health, if we are not caring for our animals, all of these things relate back to animal cruelty. Like I don't get this you can only be vegan for the animals kind of thing. So I would say for me, it's all three. I am definitely driven by the animals rights movement, but I'm equally as driven about protecting our earth, because if we have no earth, none of us are here anyways. And our health, I'm obviously massively driven by, because I think we only have a short time on this planet. And my hope is for my fellow humans, which I care just as much for that I do the animals, that we live it in the healthiest way that we can, because it makes such an impact on your human experience.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. Okay, so that kind of brings me to the question that I ask all of my guests, Carleigh, because that was kind of, I mean, that was a really good answer. So let's see where this one brings us. But what does holistic living mean to you?
I think holistic living means to me that you're living in alignment with yourself and the world. So I think I started living a lot more holistically when I started going plant-based and living my truth, what I feel is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life, and living symbiotically with the earth and respecting my fellow planet, my fellow animals, my fellow humans. I think that to me means holistically. Like, you're not taking these things in this life for granted. You're living in alignment. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Alignment. It's key. I love it. Oh, so good. Okay, Carleigh, I could literally ask you questions like for the rest of my life. I feel like you've got a lot of, you just have so much going on. It's amazing. And so much internal wisdom. But where can people stay connected with you? Like, I know you have an incredible newsletter. I know you've got your blog. I know you've got your podcast. Like, where's the best way that people can make sure that they're not going to miss any Carleigh in their life in some way on a weekly or daily basis?
Whatever social channel you hang out on, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, if you search PlantYou, I'm there. I also have a blog at PlantYou.com. So that's where I would suggest. If you hang out on Instagram, find me on there. I do have a newsletter. I have a bunch of freebies like shopping lists, meal plans, and stuff like that. You can find on my website at PlantYou.com. I'd be amiss not to mention, although this isn't announced publicly yet, I have a cookbook coming out on January 18th, 2022. So that's super exciting for me, because
So
it was
awesome.
a huge endeavor. So you'll probably see that as well.
Yay!
Please consider supporting it. Thank you.
So good. Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Like, it's a dream of mine to do a cookbook, but to even think about it, like,
We can talk.
I
You
can't
should
even
do a cookbook.
I can't even stay up with my blog at this point. So we're gonna have to hire out some people to help me like get my program going. And once that's going, I'll get back into, I'll be able to have that creative capacity again and like actually start documenting. Because when I create recipes, it's like, oh my God, that is so good. Now, how did I make that? Did I put like a teaspoon of garlic? I mean, that's how I cook. So it's pretty hard, but super proud of you, friend. Like, you should be so proud of everything that you are doing. You are making big impacts in the world, and we are all very lucky to have you in our life. So know that you
Likewise. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, friend. Thank you, Carleigh. All right. Well, this is it for this episode. Make sure you stay connected. We'll put all of Carleigh's links at the bottom of the show. And thanks for being here. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Thank you so much.